Thank you. Welcome everybody to today's council meeting of today's date, 27 November. We have had the council prayer this morning. I have apologies from councillors Diana Beard and councillor Cora Rukawa, with a possible apology from councillor Pikachiora Hero, depending on connection. Looking for somebody to so move and receive, please. Thank you, councillor Charland. Thank you, councillor. Both fee, those in favour, those against, carried. Thank you very much. We have 3 effective public forums today. First one, I will welcome Denise Peel to produce. Denise, would you like to come up and be on this side here? We do have the report. Trina's looking for a friend.
Thank you.
Trina, sorry, Denise, thank you very much. Tell us about your public forum and why you're here.
Thank you. So I did write it on my phone. I apologize if this is very
But perhaps first of all, you might like to introduce yourself.
Yes. So hello everybody, my name is Denise Peel. I am 18 years old and I'm a student at Rangitike College. Well, ex-student now. I have my last exam today in 30 minutes. But no, yeah. So I had the privilege to go down to Wellington and to attend the Aspiring Leaders Forum, which Andy has kindly nominated me to go. Now I'm gonna go back to my phone. Sorry guys. Okay, so to be honest, when Andy called me, it was like this random Thursday that I was at a Pacifica Fusion Festival in Palmy. It was 30 minutes before we had to go on and perform. So it totally slipped my mind for a bit after they told me. I was like, whoa, he's nominating me for something, but I didn't really know what he was talking about. So I was like, and then I got an email, and then Karen had kept me and updated me with some details about the forum. I think this experience has literally shaped a whole different idea for me as a leader. So many of you, or maybe some of you, might have known that I'm actually I was the head girl at school at Rangitike College this year. And I was also the deputy chair for our youth council this year, which has been very, very beneficial for me as a young person going forward. This forum literally changed my whole perspective on what it was like to be a leader. It was very inspiring, like unreal inspiring. Like the next day, so we came down on Sunday, and then we had our assembly the next day at school. It was so inspiring. I was so happy. I've never been so happy to go to assembly. And after my little, head girl speech, I literally told her, I love you all and have a great day. Who says that? Like, yeah, I just want to express my deepest gratitude and thanks to all of you who have contributed to me going on this forum. It's literally like one of those experiences I will carry for me forever. And I hope you guys like my little pictures. And my, yeah.
This is in reference to the table of report houses that you had. And are you happy to take any questions?
Yeah.
Questions from council?
I was going to say, what are you going to do next year?
I'm going to go study in Wellington. And gonna do a bachelor in design and innovation, double majoring in media and animation. So hopefully in the film industry, just like a big passion for me.
Well done.
Question from me. You were one of the younger members attending, weren't you? But there were a couple of others about your age group. Did that provide a challenge for you?
I don't think so. I think knowing that there were other people there around my age who were doing such great things in their own community didn't put me down, but further just made me feel more inspired, way more motivated than I would have thought. so many cool things that they were doing and not like limiting themselves to what they can do and can't do. So that was really cool to see.
Thank you very much. Well, look, Denise, thank you for coming in. And sorry, Councillor Watt.
Oh, could I just say something? Denise, I know Denise because she was the chair of the youth council and has been on there for the last 2 or more years.
Yeah.
And she was our chair, a very capable chair, showed great leadership and was very generous on those who followed her. So I think this is natural progression of what you've done and wish you well for all your future.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Your Worship.
So, as somebody to send to this course, you were an obvious choice, and we and all of council would absolutely wish you well study. What happens to all the badges on this now? Does this get the
Goes
sign
on a
of?
frame.
Okay. Well, Denise, thank you very, very much for attending.
Thank you so much, Andy. So much. Hopefully we will.
You will.
The next, in terms of public forum, we have past councillor. Phil Duckman. Phil, the time is yours. So you know
Tēnā koutou katoa. Good afternoon, everyone. Mayor Emily, councillors and staff and visitors. I'm Jill Duncan and presenting today as the chair of the Taihape Grandstand Restoration Committee, or TGRC as I will refer to it. Thank you to my support people here today, who Peter Kipling Arthur, who is the chair of the Taihape Heritage Grandstand Subcommittee. Peter, thank you, and Ian Ray, who is a Taihape Community Development Trust trustee. I am here to assure, to beguile and to convince you to step into the Taihape Grandstand restoration with the TGRC with a well-considered and mutually agreed community-led, council-owned facility upgrade agreement. The TGRC was purpose-made in May this year from the Taihape Memorial Park Grandstand Park User, Taihape Memorial Park User Group Committee that I also chaired at that time and is made up of Taihape and Utuku Old Boys Rugby Clubs, the Heritage Society Grandstand Subcommittee, the Taihape Playground Group, and with administration support and trust oversight from our Community Development Trust that has a live MOU with RDC. This committee has the full support of Mana Whenua, Ngāti Tamapōpiri, and is also supported by our Northern and Inland Māori Ward councillors. These 4 groups have direct interest in the grandstand, but have the mandate of all 15 of the listed park user groups. The timing coming to council now is core. The proposed timeline for work on the grandstand is at this stage is in the rugby off-season, August 2026 to May 2027. From the 2021 long-term plan, commitment by RDC of the $1 million for the grandstand, to this year, the community has struggled to clearly articulate what they want and to see how they can contribute financially. RDC has been developing the Taihape Domain Master Plan, which is a very valuable document. And I think I lost my place. That has also taken time and delayed an MOU for those wishing to contribute to the upgrade of the grandstand, as coming together without one has not been an option. However, now with the Taihape Community Development Trust agreeing to be the umbrella for funding applications and management of the funds, my expertise in this area and re-election as a TCDT trustee to provide connection and confidence, and supporting local financial expertise assured with Alan Thomas of Ryan Thomas and Co, agreeing to oversee the funds also along with Pania, the manager of the Taiapa Community Development Trust. We are ripe to strike and get this project done. The TGRC is now seriously united in purpose. The rugby fraternity reaches all corners of Taihape's work and business life and are wanting to contribute in-kind labour, skills and materials. The playground group targets every family. They have amassed considerable funds already and have their plans in hand. And then there is the national interest in this listed Heritage 2 iconic building from Heritage New Zealand. The next fundamental step to this is a strong partnership with RDC that is most effectively driven with a mutually developed, community-led, council-owned facility upgrade agreement, such as a successful Hotepu River Parks project. The Hunterville Pool is a great example, and similar models used by other councils to great effect. In June of this year, Rangitikei District Council invited Barry Copeland of Copeland Associates to provide an offer of service. Because of his prior involvement and detailed knowledge of the grandstand's requirements, which gave this TGRC confidence to meet with him and council staff, from which he assisted with an upgraded quantity surveyor's report that was essential for realistic price projections for the funding applications. Barry also created an excellent brochure that has been tabled, I believe, table document for you to look at. That has also been a key tool and is your table document. To give confidence to RDC that TGRC has the grunt to make the project sing, with council already invested and the community's intention and voice strongly aligned, it was opportune to reach out for funding. We have 2 funding applications to date. Whanganui Community Foundation that Mayor Andy connected me with, thank you, has accepted our EOI, expression of interest, and requested a full application for the whole project. And New Zealand Rugby Legacy Fund, which is a new fund only opened this year, informed me that our application has been thoroughly reviewed and decisions are due early December. I urge you to consider the work done to bring these groups together, to give confidence to them that a collaborative project can find success and deliver the desired outcomes for the Taiapa community, and tick all the compliance boxes with RDC expertise. Taihape is ready to move on this and needs your vote of confidence.
Thank you.
Thank
We
you.
only have a couple of minutes left, but are you happy to
Happy
take
to
any
take
questions?
questions,
I'll take questions from the floor. Councillor Dave Wilson, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Jill. Just great presentation. I'm just really trying to, what actually is it you're actually asking of council? I mean, you mentioned support and logistics, but is there a key thing that you're actually asking for? What is it that you actually want council to do?
Until we have a MOU in the form of this agreement, the rugby clubs, etc., are not willing to go further. They want to have absolute surety that this is a partnership that will go forward and become successful.
Okay, so subsequent, if I may, so it's the MOU that you're requesting of council. That's the principal thing to go forward.
Agreement, yes.
And I'm also not seeing any costings in here. What is this total project likely to cost? If it's been costed, there's nothing in this proposal that shows what this total cost is likely to be. Do you have that number?
There are various numbers that have been put against it. I think 2.3 is what Barry Copeland has brought to in the quantity surveyors, which actually that copy has been sent to staff. But with the change in rules and all the other uncertainties at the moment, I would think that that would be the top end of what we require. At the moment, I have the Legacy Fund application form is for, in the first place, 92 grand, which is the first part of getting the project going, and then a further 900,000.
Councillor O'Feed and myself, and
Does that include the 337,000 that's been spent already?
No, it does not. The $337,000 has come off the $1 million. So that would, no, it doesn't include that.
thank you. Councillor Duncan. Oh,
Dalgety.
Dalgety, old habits, isn't it? Councillor Dalgety, then myself.
Thank you, Joel. So we've only just received this now. So I too was wondering about budgets and milestones and what you need to have done before August 26th. I just did feel that I didn't really have a lot of information.
Yes,
So-
and because there are so many uncertainties with the change in legislation, etc. The quantity surveyor report, I have provided staff with a short version of what that looks like, including that number that I've given you. But because of the in-kind, for instance, is estimated around 300K. But you will see in that proposal, that brochure, that there are plans in there, and they are well over what Rugby require. But Rugby are not willing to go into spending that time to actually see what they need until this agreement is put in place and they can have surety that we're going forward.
So my final question here, is aligned to that. There's a scoping program that has to be sorted out as to what work
Yes.
is required, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Well, ex-councillor, past councillor,
Thank you.
Jill, thank you very much and thank you for the amount of work that you're doing in terms of the community on this regard to this matter. So thank you. This will be referred to later in the documents going in front of you under 10.1 in terms of decisions and recommendations. In terms of a third public forum, we were programmed to have a public forum on Martin netball with Katie Deere. She's away, but she has provided a number of documents to us, and there've been a number of conversations and there's been feedback on the Thrive report. That will also be part of the decisions under 10.2 to be discussed today. So thank you. That brings us, as I understand it, to the end. You're welcome to stay, by the way, if you wish. Thank you very much. Moving on in terms of conflict of interest declarations, do we have any conflict registered at this time of the meeting? No, thank you. In terms of the confirmation of order of business, any changes, staff, that I'm not aware of? No, thank you very much. Confirmation of minutes, item 6.1, looking for alterations and corrections starting pages 5, 6 and 7, 8 and 9, 10 and 11, 12 and 13 and 14. Any alterations, corrections? No, would somebody like to move, please, that they be accepted? Thank you, councillor Charlotte and councillor Field. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Thank you. In terms of item 7.1, the follow-up actions from council meetings, page 15. Who would like to take us through that from a staff perspective, please?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm happy to take you through this one. The first action was a request from the last meeting about developing an MOU with the Shimoso. The comment that I've put in there is what we've done as a result of that process is developed an internal process where we're going to have one key staff contact for our major events in the district to support that coordination of what events might be requesting or needing from council through one key point of contact. We're hoping and we're positive that that will work across all of our major events to streamline how we as an organisation support them, and hoping that it will remove the need for an MOU. We're quite conscious if we do an MOU with one group, we'll need to be doing MOU with all groups. So ask that you allow us to implement that process through effectively the next 6 months in event season before progressing with anything further on an MOU.
Councillors, this aligns with my thinking around portfolio holders across activities as well. Take any questions there? No, item 2.
Item 2 is one for Mr. Bernardi. The timeline will be included once finalised effectively. I'm conscious that he's still working through that process of testing.
Could I, your worship, just speak to that, if I may?
Certainly,
Item
yeah.
2 on the agenda of the update. I'd like it to be recorded, please, that it would be my expectation that there could be something resembling a timeline for our first assets and infrastructure meeting of this triennium. And I'd be hopeful that that could be included. Looking to the chief executive on that one.
That's entirely appropriate.
Yeah. Your chairmanship, that's your problem. To develop.
Signaling it now, I'd like to see it updated.
Thank you very much. Anything further there? Otherwise I'll move on. Moving on to item number 8, the mayor's report. I'm certainly
Could
going
you
to.
just receive?
Oh,
just need to receive.
sorry, you're right. Somebody like to move receipt. Thank you, councillor Dalgetty. Councillor Buckendale, those in favour? Those against, carried. Thank you. Item number 8, I'm certainly not going to read the mayor's report. While you're thinking of questions or questions of where I've been and what I've done or haven't done, just a couple of extra additions. First of all, Zone 3. Zone 3 joint chairmanship between myself and Craig Little, Mayor of Wairoa. Craig was elected to go on and be the Zone 3 representative on the national board. Probably the highlight for me, 2 highlights. The first was thank you to the number of councillors that attended. That's very welcome, and it was on our doorstep in Palmerston this time. And around the regions, looking at what other councils are doing and where they're spending their time. I think it's valuable. The next one, I visited the Rotorua swimming pool on the weekend and spoke to a number of their staff. Fabulous looking facility. Yes, it does get warm in the summer. They have advantages and disadvantages in that heating area. And the disadvantage is that they're almost sitting in a glass case to some extent. That in effect generates heat. They also have the advantage of being able to open up significant doors to allow free flow of air, and they have a very good air conditioning system. I put the question to a number of people saying, knowing what you did now, in terms of putting this roof on, would you continue? Would that have been your decision? They said, absolutely yes. The power savings to the facility are hugely substantial. It has made it far easier in terms of they operate all year round there, but it's made it much more comfortable and lets light in, etc. So that was their opinion, but they were noting, you should have some doors or be able to let free flow of air in as a facility. And we take that on comment on board and look at the plans that we have to say, does it allow for that? Government is moving at a phenomenal speed, and the latest announcements on the abolition of regional councils, signalling possible amalgamation of road services between roading contracts between councils, and putting in writing possible amalgamations that should be coming in terms of small councils. It's like, wow, it would have been nice if you'd talked to the mayors before you just said this is the mayor's problem to sort. The timelines surprised me. To say that you've just had an election for regional council and that some of those people may not serve their term of office is astounding. I would have thought if government was going to make these changes, they would have put them in place at the end of this triennium rather than now, but they're now saying they do not expect some councillors to serve their time. So understanding this, understanding the tsunami, and their words, not mine, of information and government action coming to us before Christmas. So we have the RMA reform coming to us in different steps. And this is part of that before Christmas. We have rates pegging that will be tabled. We'll be having the guidelines under what council should be involved in coming before Christmas. And that Christmas period will count as the consultation process for submissions. This is the environment we're currently acting within. That concerns me. I will take any questions around my report, my mayoral engagements or whatever. The floor is yours, councillors. Councillor Sharland.
Your Worship, I'd just like to point out that I have read this report and I've found a spelling mistake. And under local water done well on page 17, this plan it's got bout instead of about.
Yeah, please, councillors, look, I take your point, but please, at that level, just advise us about spelling mistakes. And I'll try to be more accurate, but equally with staff reports, the same, just advise us ahead of time. Any questions, councillor Warren?
Just one question of the council meetings we've been attending, not of you, but councillor Field attended a CCS meeting, which I've not come across before.
Councillor Ford attended.
Creative communities.
Yes, sorry, yes. Normally I'd sit in on creative communities, but I was unavailable. And what's one of the issues I'm dealing with, the number of clashes at the moment make it extremely difficult for every week. Any questions, further questions? Otherwise I'll move my report for a seconder. Councillor Buckendale seconding. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Thank you very much. It comes with a couple of other recommendations. And the recommendation is that the Community Volunteer Awards 2026 do or do not take place in the same or scaled back format as 2023. So I'm looking for an opinion here. So I think that these community awards, this will be the second year, do take place, but they are scaled back in terms of cost and saving money. And I'll move, looking for a seconder, so it's up for discussion. Councillor Dalgety, are you wishing a second? We went down the path, virtually every other council acknowledges people that have given extraordinary community service. And the initial inaugural one, I think was about 10 people brought into that space. They were incredibly deserving people, but there are people that missed out that equally should be a representative. And you know, some of the costs were quite high for that first one because there were processes involved in setup and so on, and quite an elaborate evening event. And I think that it could be scaled back quite a bit. But I think it's important. Looking for other speakers, Councillor Dalgety.
I think we're a small district and we've got amazing volunteers doing incredible things in so many different corners of it. And this is just a small way to recognise some of the great outcomes that they create for our district.
Any further speakers? Councillor Wong.
I did attend the first one, and since it was the first in a while, that was quite a large event, and I know I support the scaling back, because I think it's.
Thank you. We've had 3 speakers in favour of the conditions as I've stated. Are there any speakers against? No, put that to the vote. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Thank you very much. That brings me to the end of my reports. Move to item 9, the Chief Executive's report.
Thank you, Worship. Not a lot in my report this month, but there are some meaty issues covered in other reports that we will get to further on in the meeting. So just a reminder, I'll go through this section by section. If you have anything you want to raise, please let me know. Section 2 covers events held at our district's facilities across the whole district. And these are the ones that we receive the booking information for. So if there's omissions, they're usually because we haven't been advised through the formal booking system that something has taken place. Section 3 is around movements of staff, so employees. So we had no one exit in October and a couple of staff start in September. The health, safety and wellbeing dashboard is provided within this report. Council.
Question from council.
Yes, thank you, Worship. Obviously noting October, 15 events ranging from event near miss and hazard, up from 6 in September, so more than double. Just seeking some clarity through you, Worship, through to the Chief Executive, that they've been looked into as to what's happened there and why that's happened to double.
So Leanne will be able to provide some commentary on that.
Thank you. So through the chair, yes, we do review all of them. They come through our health and safety committee. As managers and GMs of our areas, we also get involved across this. I'm not quite sure that I'd say it's doubled. I look at it, it's gone from 6 to 7 if we're looking at that one, or you're talking about the whole lot that we're including.
Cumulative across
On
all
the
three of
hazardous
those
role.
events.
Yeah, so all of those are investigated and monitored and updated, and if there's ongoing work to be done, we keep that through the committee minutes, which comes through to exec.
Nothing alarming in your initial investigation of those events?
Alarming at this point in time, which is good.
Thank you.
Councillor Dalgety, did you have a question?
I was along the same lines, but just looking at the level of antisocial behaviour, which we have talked about before, but what proportion of staff have done de-escalation training?
Not an answer we could provide straight away, but we could provide that back to you. There's quite a number of
There's been a number of
frontline
them.
staff essentially, and those that are having to deal with members of the public. Generally, they're the ones who we.
Too, I believe. Yeah, so there's quite a few have done it, but I don't know the number. We can follow up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Please push on.
Yes, so the next section is around submissions. So there's a table there which provides you some of the submissions that are currently open. Just a reminder that the executive team do look at each of the submissions coming in and prioritise where our time is spent on responding to those. And as His Worship has alluded to earlier, we are waiting for the tsunami of legislative changes come in that we've been promised before Christmas, and hoping that we get enough time to actually really give good responses to these. I think one of the areas at the recent government meetings was to collaborate with your neighbour councils on some of the submissions, because a lot of them will be very similar to what we actually are going to provide commentary on ourselves. So we'll look for opportunities to actually do that with our neighbouring councils as well.
No.
Okay, local water done well. So we had another workshop this morning. This continues at pace, just for capturing in the report Central District's water, and the logo is provided there. There's still a lot of work ongoing, and also have advised in the past that we have a work stream lead for the operations and assets within our own team. So Arno Bernardi has picked up that work stream lead and will work 3 days a week from Palmerston North. And Darren will be stepping into some of Arno's role, and there's others who are picking up other parts of his role as well. So you'll see a bit more of Darren going forward, which is a good opportunity for him as well, I hope. And happy to take any further questions.
Well, I think that could somebody move the receipt of the report, please? Councillor Hainsworth moving, seconded. Thank you, Councillor Wong, those in favour? Those against, carried, thank you. Questions? No questions? I'd just like to, not a question, but I'd just like to comment for those in the room, the workload associated with Central District's water for both staff and chief executive, our chief executive is exhaustive. it is so hard for a small council. We're not the only one in this position, but it is hard for small councils that don't have a series of engineers, a series of people that you can just put into spaces, vastly expanded comms and finance teams. They can absorb this amount of work far more easily than the smaller councils. So my thank you to staff for the work they have put in. And thank you to the councillors that turned up to so many of these meetings. And I'm sorry, councillors, I thought it would start to ease off over Christmas, but I can see a whole lot more legislation in front of us. So that is what it is. Thank you, your Chief Executive. Moving on now, please, to 10 and 10.1, reports for decision for Taipi Grandstand, the update, proposed next steps. And first of all, ask that the report and table documents be received. Looking for receipt of it, Councillor Buckendale, Councillor Sharland, those in favour, those against, carried. Thank you very much. Chief Executive.
Thank you. Yes, so I've actually asked Galen to come up to the table as well because she'll be able to provide more of an explanation about some of the aspects of this report. So as you would have heard from Mrs. Jill Duncan earlier in the public forum, there's a request from the new group that has been formed, which is called the Taihape Grandstand Restoration Committee, for this project to be considered as a community-led council-owned facilities upgrade project. And we can explain a bit more what that means further on in the report. So the report seeks to cover off a number of aspects as well, and Mrs. Duncan alluded to some of these. So the offer of service that was requested by Mr. Barry Copeland, and included in this report is a request to have a council nominee appointed to look at this in the portfolio approach that His Worship has talked about before, in particular for the Assets and Infrastructure Committee. So I'll take most of the report as read and very happy to have questions answered. And Galen is the one leading the community-led project application form with this group, so she can provide more of a context on what that actually means. And the offer of service, we mentioned that before. So Mr. Barry Copeland, as part of, after a user group meeting, was actually asked to provide an offer of service to carry out some of the work, design work for this project, and that has been received. So I might just leave it there and open it up for questions.
And just before you open it, do you wish to say anything further?
Just touching on the community-led process, it's really just identifying the responsibilities of each group, the community group and council, what each is prepared to do, how it will be funded, all that type of thing. And then it's put into a written agreement, so we're all quite clear on our responsibilities moving forward.
Questions first, and then I'll be looking for recommendations reasonably early on. I might go to Councillor Wong in this space first, and then Councillor Dalgety. Councillor Wong.
Has the Taipi Grandstand Restoration Committee requested any councillor be allocated to the grandstand project?
No, but we've, as part of this process, we've had the working party, and there are already people on that working party. To some extent, that role has already been filled. But there'll be a discussion as to whether that's appropriate or whether there's a single person as a portfolio holder, yet to be determined, I think, Councillor.
Yeah.
Councillor Dalgety.
2 questions, if that's okay.
Sure.
So will the MOU allow work in kind to be done by the users of the grandstand?
Yes, it would, and that would be overseen. And obviously, if there's a consent required for that work, that would be gained and all that. But yes.
So thank you. I just what's going through my mind with when I think about the pool in Hunterville and some of our applications for funding or, who we were applying to would be constantly asking, why won't council fund this? Why are you wanting us to fund it, not council? So I just have a little bit of concern around, just because we're not handing it over. There is going to be an ongoing maintenance responsibility with council, if I've got that correct. Then we're just asking to get this project done, and I just wonder if that will be harder to get funding for.
I understand, generally speaking, it has been harder to get funding for all community groups, but yeah, I can't answer specifically, but that is the message I've been hearing.
So usually with the agreements, a councillor-led community-owned facility upgrades, they would be developed by the community to a standard that is acceptable to council and then handed over to council to maintain and do future work.
Yes, and just to clarify, we would work with them at the initial stages too. We would be going to the planning team, the building consent team, just to see what's required. We'd do that part for them.
We're dancing around councillors around what are effectively recommendations. I'm looking for somebody, Councillor Wilson.
Actually, before I go to that, I would like to ask a question directly of the report. It says in here under section 4, the offer of service, Copeland Associates. It says it was agreed at a July 05 meeting that Copeland Associates be requested, and it's further in there many times. Was that an agreement with Rangitikei District Council, or was that at the request of the user groups? Because I'm not seeing that there was a jointedness in between it. I'd just like to know if were you at the user group meeting when it was requested?
No, I wasn't, that's why I was going to defer to his worship.
So there was some, it's a fair question to ask. There was some confusion around that process. Mr. Copeland had the feeling that they had been engaged by council. There wasn't a formal request for that engagement. Further, there was a request from a councillor at the time to Mr. Copeland to do other work to progress this sort of relationship in the future. But again, there wasn't a formal process with the chief executive to authorise that position. So, councillor, you'll be aware that in public excluded today, there is a paper around some of the cost of that, which is up for discussion. It is in public excluded because of commercial.
Yeah, thanks. Further, if I may, certainly not referencing further papers in here. Just looking through this, it's just, to me, it's a clear sort of example of some of our processes and procedures haven't been followed perhaps as true as they could be. Council does have processes and procedures, and we see this quite constantly where we get bound up by things because they haven't been followed quite as carefully as they should have done. So it was more of a general comment on that nature of all sorts of projects that council ends up getting involved in because that hasn't been followed as good as it could.
I concur, but whether the fault is on one or another or both parties is an area that is under scrutiny. Councillor Dalgety.
I'm just not in my mind understanding why they don't want to go through a procurement process and get quotes.
I think you're referring, Councillor, more
Item
to
4.4.
Yes, I'd really like to deal with item 2, recommendation 2, as to whether you believe it should be a community-led council-owned facility upgrade.
Happy to move that.
Looking for a seconder, it's up for discussion, Councillor Wong.
Second.
You wish to speak to your motion, Councillor Wilson?
Yeah, I do. I just think if we have the direct community groups that are involved in the project at the table right at the very, very beginning, I think it just makes it a lot smoother for everyone else to get involved. And I think also if you have your community groups involved, it does give you scope to perhaps reach out to other alternative funding sources and those funding sources would be comfortable knowing that they've got the district council sitting behind it. So to me, it's an absolute natural thing to do, is to be led by the community.
Take your point, but there was a group working in this space. Other speakers, did you wish to speak further? Councillor Dalgety.
Yes, I'm very in favour with this. I've been very involved with the Hunterville Pole Net. It operates along these lines with council support via Operation Grant, and it's been great for Hunterville.
Councillor Wong.
Yes, I'm also in support. I take on Deputy Mayor Dave, his comments about a lack of process and other things, but it's a good opportunity to engage the community, and the positives far outweigh the risks which have been outlined in the paper. So I support it.
Understanding orders, we had 3 speakers in favour. Are there any speakers against? Put it back to write a reply. They're all in favour of you anyway. Your Councillor Wilson.
No reply. Thank you.
The vote, those in favour, those against, motion is carried. Thank you. That brings you to the alignment with recommendations 3 and 4. Would somebody like to so move and speak to, or are there questions associated with this?
So, yeah, sorry. So I mean, as I mentioned earlier, I'm not understanding why they want to avoid a process of getting quotes and a process, going by good procurement management.
Are you wishing to, you just
That's a
asking a
question.
question or stating an opinion without stating a
That was a
recommendation?
question.
Okay.
Okay, from my understanding, which is one of the reasons this is in front of you,
Mhm.
my understanding is that there is an acceptance that Mr. Copeland has the expertise in this area. And so the request was put that no one else be asked to provide for that. So that is something that council has to give us direction on, because that is not part of our normal procurement process.
I'll be a speaker, Councillor Wong and myself, and depending on whether we can.
I'll try to move, sorry, but
Yeah.
no, but
I was going to move.
yeah,
Right,
you go.
Councillor Wong, you can move then.
I'll move the motion, whatever it is, where it is.
It's only empty.
3.
That council agrees that Taipei Grandstand Project be a community led.
Done that one.
Done.
Council does approve the Taipei Grandstand Restoration Committee engage Copeland Associates to continue design work on the grandstand, and that no further quotes be sought, noting that this does not comply with council's procurement and contract management policy.
Looking for a seconder to that. Councillor Wilson, be to second. You wish to speak to it, and I'll be the next speaker, Councillor Wong.
And to sort of answer some of Councillor Dalgetty's questions, the process has begun, and I have been involved with the committee at some levels, and the process has begun, and the committee has required Copeland's expertise to further their funding applications. That does not mean that when the actual build and plans are built, they will examine their funding situation at that time as to how they progress from there. This does not mean that accepting the Copeland's plan to go through the whole build is to establish the plans, the design work for their applications for funding, and then they can, once they have a further idea of where they are, they can examine their position and make plans from that point, because they don't know what funds they will have. And so it will allow them to have some flexible ideas.
Yeah, if I speak, just to a large extent, the design work has already been done. And I think I'm in favour of this because it's very difficult on one hand to be saying you're handing it over to a community-led organisation and then saying, but we're going to step in and put our footprint all over it. Secondly, the issue isn't the design work, the issue is the scope of work to be done. And I think that is somewhere where that group of people, I would encourage them to work with council on the MOU around exactly what will be done as scoping work. But that's principally my reasons for support of this. I take on board the concerns around some of the costings and quotes with the design work that have been done. But you can't have a foot in both camps, in my opinion. Councillor Dalgety, you're the next speaker.
Yeah, I just, if they want to, I am not, I would rather the community engage whoever they want to engage. But what I'm not understanding is why this gentleman cannot quote. And my understanding is he's an Auckland architect with connections to Taihape, so that may be significantly adding to the cost. So yeah, I am in agreement with the committee going ahead and finding the quotes and finding the quotes and doing that work that they need to. I don't think we need to overstep that, but I just am unhappy that they just go blanche and say, no, it's fine not to have any procurement policy or quotes required.
I'll take that as speaking against the
Sorry,
motion.
I'm speaking
Against the motion. There will be those conversations. You wish to speak next?
Yes, if I may, so directly to help Councillor Dalgety, if I may, there have been a number of reports on this grandstand over my 9 years on council, and largely they have all been produced by Copeland and Associates. So there is a link to that, which is a natural progression of this document that we have here in front of us and the decision that we have. I also agree with you to a certain extent on the issue of the council's procurement contract, which leads me to ask the question for a procedural matter here, is that it says in the wording, it says noting that this does not comply with the council's procurement contract management policy. I wonder if that should not be broken out and say that council as an active decision is setting aside the council's procurement policy on that matter, because it has been done in the past. Rolling the two things together as one motion seems to me to have a little bit of complexity to it. If you just look at the final part of that, there's the two stages here.
I understand your point, councillor.
If staff are happy with it, it's worded correctly, I'll let it go. I just wonder if it should be.
Staff's opinion first.
That is the title. Procurement and contract management.
Yes,
policy.
I
That is the
understand.
whole- It is one policy.
No, that's not the issue. It's the fact that you've got two direct actions sitting here further, if I may, your worship. One is an action to associate the design work, but the second part is noting that council sets the policy aside. I would have thought they were two distinct actions. It should be slightly more split up
Procedurally, are you wanting to set an amendment that the two issues be separated?
I would like to see that, because I think it's significant enough to seek that. There'd be amendment that the two things become in a second agreement. It's only a small matter, but it's important of how it reads, because we are setting aside our procurement policy, and in the past we've made a deliberate action and recommendation to do so on a particular matter. That's the point that I raised.
Question.
Okay. Question.
Because we have moved that this project be moves to under the umbrella of a community-led project, does the council procurement policy still apply? Because we're not.
Yes.
Still.
Yeah, through your worship, because there's still council funds being spent on this project, which is the next recommendation. But I think to councillor Wilson's point, I'm happy to have it separated. We did just want it recorded.
Yes, and I agree, sorry, but just wondering if it's not recorded strong enough, because it's quite a significant thing to step away from your procurement policy, and I think it should be a clear decision to do that.
My problem procedurally, councillor, is that you were the seconder to the motion. And you are now seeking an amendment to a motion that you have seconded. That is unusual to say the least. What I'll do is I'll ask the mover and seconder whether you would accept that the motion stops at noting that no further quotes be sought, full stop.
Yes.
Would you both be in agreement with that, rather than seek an amendment the way that you're trying to? So, at that stage, I will then go back to the motion that councillor Wong moved initially. Now that has changed, do you wish to speak further to it?
No, I think.
So, councillor Dalgety, your comments are still against in principle?
Yeah.
Do you wish to speak further? Advise you that you'd need to do that.
Yes, not on the first recommendation, no.
Any other speakers? Otherwise, I go back to councillor Wong for a right of reply, because you've had a speaker against, unless there are other speakers. Councillor Wong.
I think we've said why no on the subject, actually. Back to you.
Happy to put it to the vote. Put it to the vote. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Sorry, did you have a vote against? I vote against. Record. Do you want it recorded?
Yes.
Thank you. Record the vote against in terms of councillor Field.
And councillor Dalgety.
And councillor Dalgety. Are you now wishing to put a note by way of motion?
The motion that's up there, I'm seeking to put, however, the wording's not quite right, and I know I'm really being pedantic. What we're seeking to do in this recommendation is to set aside council's procurement policy, and I think we've really got to be careful to get the wording right. What I'm asking is that we record that we are setting aside council's procurement and contract management policy in aid of this decision. And I just think it should be done and worded correctly.
So that you're recommending the council records a set aside,
Yes.
setting aside the council's procurement and contract management policy with regard to recommendation
With
3.
regard to recommendation 3 would be appropriate.
Are you wishing to move that?
Happy to move that.
Looking for a seconder to that. Seconding that, councillor Wong. Wish to speak to it?
No, you wish it were done.
Then we run the risk of getting self tied up and not said. You wish to speak?
I'll speak to it. As councillor Wilson has just mentioned, this is because of the timing of how things have progressed. And as his worship has noted before, we're engaged in this, and we have the whole process has been tangled in this whole thing, and to cut it there is just would just make this whole thing a total mess and would stop the whole process, and we would basically be back here at some form or another very soon, and no progress will be made. Timeline would be absolutely halted. So as we have approved the start of this process, we need to carry it on. Otherwise, we shouldn't have started down this track. I know it's full of things that are hard to swallow, and it's not following good process, but unfortunately, this is where we are.
Are you happy we put this to the vote, councillors? Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Thank you very much. Recommendation 4 that council, so there's a numbering change required here, but recommendation 4, which will become recommendation 5, that council agrees or does not agree that Tai Happy Grandstand Restoration Committee determine how the remaining council funds are allocated towards refurbishment and restoration of the Tai Happy Grandstand, and that council does or does not make payments for under authorisation. Looking for a mover.
Question.
Take a question. I'll take more than one question if needed.
So we have item in public excluded
Yes.
that could be affected by this motion.
No, I don't believe so. I think they stand as separate issues. I did think about that. Councillor Wong.
I think probably to keep our funds as final funder as we have, because this is something that has been very at risk project, and a lot of councillors here don't seem to be particularly comfortable with the direction. So to grant the Grandstand Restoration Committee full control of the funds just seem to be letting go the control that we do have, and as final funders we're not supporting the project. We still are, but it just enables us to perhaps feel more comfortable with our position.
Look, I'll put a motion on the table to move things on. I would move that the council agrees that the Tai Happy Grandstand Restoration Committee determine how the remaining council funds are allocated towards refurbishment, restoration, etc., and that council does make payments under authorisation. So there are two parts to this. We act in effect as the, and look, better get a seconder first. Anybody? Thank you. Councillor O'Fee seconding. Speaking to it, we can't play in both fields. You either give them the job to do or you don't. But we should always act as the banker here. And that is the way many other projects are handled. So look at the entire the bridges and so on. They have engaged the people, they've worked tirelessly behind the scenes in terms of Papakai Park. They go through all of the process, which gives council considerable amounts of time and money and staffing resources. There's still the MOU with council around delivery and making sure that what is there is fit for service and practice and suitable for us to take over future maintenance of. But we have held the funds and been effectively the banker for them. And the process has worked incredibly well. I think you extend the same level of trust to relationship to other people in this space. But for other speakers, I'm speaking in favour, obviously. Any other speakers? Councillor Wilson.
Speaking against and partially agreeing with you, I know that's a bit of a double Dutch sort of comment to make. Whilst I'm supportive of the intent behind this recommendation, I don't believe there's enough detail upon the authorisation pathway that would enable these things to get funded. Is this a two-up authorisation signing process? It simply says that council does make payment upon TGRC authorisation. Well, what sits behind that authorisations? What is appropriate for council to be spending money on, which is effectively taxpayer, ratepayer money? So I like the intent, and I like the idea of giving this newly formed community-led organisation the scope to develop this. I'm just a little nervous about what is the process of this authorisation. It's very broad and it's very open, and I think it has some risks if we're just simply to be signing this stuff off without some checks and balances. So I'd like it to come back with a little bit more detail if we could, but I'm not comfortable with the wording on this one, so I'm speaking against.
You want to speak to the MOUs and requirements?
Yes, I think this would be a key part of what we actually include in the document that Galen has mentioned earlier. So the community-led application needs to cover exactly how this would work, and that would be the next stage that Galen actually works with. So in your hands, whether you want to leave this one to sit on the table to review what that looks like, or staff can work with that group on that, and also finance to make sure that we have our processes correct.
Are you the working party also including councillors in this space? Councillor Jagger.
Yeah, I totally agree that we can't stand in 2 feet in each side of the road, and keen for the community representatives to take up this challenge, but I'm just lost my train of thought. I was just worried about oh, sorry, Mr. Mayor, I've gone totally blank.
While you're thinking,
Yeah, come back to me.
effectively you've had one speaker for, one speaker against, and an explanation to the question. Where are you sitting?
Sorry, what I'm wanting to say is that I believe we should be the final funder. And should that be written into this recommendation, or yeah, I'm thinking that the final 500K should be the final funds going into the project.
Welcome you putting that as a separate motion to the floor. Speaking to the motion, we've got to limit ourselves to speaking to the motions that are on the table at the moment.
Take an amendment, your worship, and I'm not sure procedurally, City, as I've spoken, whether you could take that amendment.
I'm really prepared to waive depending on what the amendment is.
Well, I believe that the amendment is quite simply up there with the words added, subject to confirmation of a final MOU and financial advice or something along those lines. It enables us to make this decision to move on and cover the issue that I've raised. And if that was to be accepted, I think we could cover the discussion around the table.
Looking to move, have a seconder speech to that amendment, to second that amendment. Are you wishing to second?
Second, yes.
Look, to cut to the chase here, as mover, I'd be quite accepting of that position. And would that mean that you're now speaking in favour?
I'm speaking in favour with that addition to the motion, yes,
Yeah.
and that amendment being accepted.
Yeah, I could go through an exhaustive process here, but essentially I'd agree with you. Because, and other people still have the opportunity to speak, that would allow me to do that. Any other speakers too? Anybody in confusion as to where you are, because I'd hate you be making a decision that you're not sure of, councillors.
Can you just read out the final recommendation again as adjusted?
No. I wonder if we could just take it.
Subject to the confirmation of the final MOU.
It's not an MOU.
Yeah, that's what it says,
Right,
subject to the
that's-
confirmation of the final MOU.
So it's the community-led application that needs to be it's not an MOU. So. Galen, have you got the right things?
Look, are you happy to leave this recommendation sit on the table for council staff to have a look at and come back and determine? Or do you feel this, I'm taking your guidance here, staff?
Yes.
I see what you're trying to get at.
We can come back to it.
Councillors, I'll leave this one on the table to later in the meeting. And as such, I'll also leave recommendation 5 sitting on the table at this time. Is there any objection at the table to that? I think the wording may be needed to be accurate here. Righto, thank you very much. We'll park by it. And we'll now move on to item 10.2, the outdoor reports, Balls, Martin, Taiape. Would somebody like to move that the report, Balls, Martin, Taiape, and the table reports, which includes the response letter from Katie Deere with regard to the Thrive report and their effectively their changes and their thinking around recommendations be received. Question?
She's moving.
You're moving?
Just received, yeah.
Oh, looking for a seconder to that. Councillor Buckendale seconding. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Thank you. So this item is now live on table. Recommendations. Take questions around the report first of all.
Aileen wanted to mention anything first.
Yeah, good point.
Thank you. Just like to clarify 1.2 to consider a request from Rangatiki Netball to increase the number of courts at Centennial Park from 3 to 4. They've since come back to us and in this instance, while they see the need for 4 courts long term, in the short term, they have recommended retaining the current court layout.
Yes, councillors, where this arose from, I have had several discussions with Katie over time. And I discussed the Thrive report with her, which was a little bit ironic because there was criticism of getting an outside consultant report on this. But having received that report, effectively, Martin Netball have changed their opinion and to retain 3 courts and not expand to 4 because of the reasons within the report.
And just further to that, the recommendation is still to proceed with the plexi pave or a similar rubberized surface coating at this time. Questions?
So in discussions with Katie over the plexi pave, there were some questions raised about their availability to do the work and the surface required underneath it, etc. So that is why there was the suggestion that or a similar material. Anything else you wish to raise?
Just one more from me, Your Worship. I think in the discussions we've had with Netball and subsequent discussions, there hadn't been a formal request for council to actually put any funding towards the resurfacing. But we now are putting a recommendation in front of you that as a final funder, that council actually commits up to $50,000 towards the resurfacing. And you'll see that recommendation up on the screen because this has just come to light over the last couple of days.
Yeah, there's been a number of conversations that I've had with Katie and Netball, or Katie specifically. They also applied for funding from an outside charity, and I've been advised that has been granted 50,000, and the charity, the organisation funding that is in the public arena. I've been told that funding will be received. They have suggested that our council should be stepping up to be in that position ourselves. In terms of the Chief Executive is quite correct. There's never been a request for funding, but the process is going to cost more than the 140,000, I think, that is required. And if I look at where Tie Happy Netball has been, we put a similar amount of money into the courts, Tie Happy. So I've said to staff, if we were to do this, what would be the process around it? And the recommendations that have been suggested by staff are as such. So there's a few subjects I've covered in a block here. Take any questions over that block. Councillor Sharlin.
I read all the reports about this plexi pave thing they're talking about. I mean, it seems, is it a temporary solution? It didn't sound like if we're going to do it properly, we're going to dig the whole thing out and start again.
So plexi flow tends to have a limited time period, and whether it's on a perfect surface lasting 20 years or less than perfect surface for 10 years. But that's why they need to do a little bit further work around what is the correct process and whether there is a subceiling required, a refoundation built, or what. I think there's still some work in that space. But this sort of to be at least giving a commitment to netball, and it would still be retained as a council facility to be maintained by us. So we would need to be part of that discussion around whatever surface was put out. So further questions?
I'm looking to step through the recommendations, Your Worship, sorry.
Go ahead.
We're at recommendation 2, are we there? Is that correct?
Yes.
I'm seeking to move that recommendation 2.
Looking for a seconder to that. Councillor Hainsworth seconding. You wish to speak to it?
No, I think that's pretty self-explanatory.
Are you happy, councillors? I'll put that to a vote. Would you? I'll put it to the vote. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Thank you. You wish to build on those recommendations?
Yes, I just wanted to seek clarity before I did try to move the next recommendation, or one of the next recommendations. The recommendation to stay with the 3 courts was to remain in their current configuration, is your understanding? Or was it the upper one, 3 courts with reconfiguring to improve safety and user experience? 2 of them relate to the 3 courts. I was seeking which one of the 2 was the preferred option, and understanding from Rangatira Netball.
So, staff, have you had direction?
The latest written document that came through was retaining current court layout short term.
Okay, which should be C on the recommendation. In that case, I'd like to remove recommendation 3, option C.
Looking for a seconder to that. Councillor Buckendale wishing to second. Wish to speak to it.
I will take this opportunity to speak on the whole report. It's really quite interesting when you actually have a look back at some of the history of these courts. And we've got to remember they've been around a long time, and trying to establish ownership and previous decisions made by previous councils over a number of years can be quite complex. But I think what it does highlight to us is, again, the need to follow the procedure through so that we can capture what decisions have been made, and so that we can ensure that decisions we are making now benefit the entire community, and for the longest longevity of the decisions that we make. And I think by having the discussion that has been had here in the report received, it enables us to do that. So I'm happy with that recommendation 3. I think it is natural and forms part of the next decisions to be made.
In essence, speak up on the vote. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. So we've now got to the stage where we're back to the current format of courts. Now, this is recommendation 4, the delivery mechanism. That it's either a community-led council and facilities project alongside Rangatira Netball, subject to completion of an application, agreement and roles and responsibilities, and confirmation of sufficient funding, etc., etc. That's bound up within the MOUs we're talking about, or a council-led project plan procured and delivered through council's work program. Would somebody like to pick the option here? Is the recommendation first from staff or advice from Netball as to which they would prefer?
My understanding is that Netball prefers the community-led project, and it's very similar to how we've spoken about the Taihepe Grandstand.
I'd so move, Mr. Chair.
You're moving that it's community-led?
Yep.
Looking for a second to that. Thank you, councillor Dalgety, seconding. Councillor Buckendale, do you wish to speak to the motion?
No, I think we've spent a lot of time on the subject, and I think we're heading in the right direction.
That's nice and concise. Great, thank you. Any further speakers? Put it to the vote. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Thank you very much. Now, it comes down to the council either supports the proposal to resurface the courts using Pixie Pave, allowing one quote only, noting this to be an exception, etc. Or requests additional information and quote to the acrylic surface overlays and cushioned hardcourt systems in accordance with council's procurement policy. Does anybody have a view?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Mayor, haven't we covered that in the previous recommendation? We've said that we're going to be community-led with that committee.
There's an argument for that, which would
That would be
support
my
the
argument.
argument.
That would be my argument, that we don't bother with recommendation 5, that we've covered it under our result with recommendation 4.
Yeah. Does anybody feel that I'm wary about using Pixie Page, etc., and isolating out here? Councillor Hainsworth.
You know, like everything has been given to us, they've gone about this Pixie Plow, but nothing's been what's can be laid on. Does it need to be laid on concrete or asphalt or anything like that? My worries is the sub base being ceiling and all that. Are they looking at raising the level of the port? Because then that brings us into the issue of the Centennial Park, the height of the Centennial Park Pavilion. It'll cause, water travelling around there. So, just my thing about this Pixie Pave, like looking at the Taiapi one, it's on concrete. So what is that? We're gonna have to dig out the court, lay concrete down to put this Pixie Pave on, or is there a better option to put down?
I understand from Katie, but I haven't seen it in writing that Plexi Pave are now not in the position to offer it as a contract position at the moment. But
I haven't heard that.
she's just said they've accepted a huge amount of other work. So I think there's further discussions regardless as to what product is put down and how it's put down.
There are
Okay.
courts in the Martin area that are, and it has been laid on asphalt. One of the local schools, I mean, is laid on asphalt.
How long has that court been down?
Down about 9 years there.
That's what I thought. Councillor Wilson.
I'm seeking to move. Recommendation 5.
Hang on. Councillor Buckendale has essentially moved that you remove 5 from the table.
Seconded.
Oh, was it? Did we get to speak to that? Did we remove 5 from the table? Okay, if it's recorded as, then I'll accept that.
No. He recommended that motion 5 was, recommendation 5 was no longer needed. It had been covered essentially in his view by 4.
Yeah, I'm sorry to wish, but I don't recall that as being moved for a vote. Perhaps I was asleep at that stage. Apologies.
Because he didn't feel as though it needed, it's then up to anybody else to put a recommendation on the table. That's the point. He wasn't prepared to move it. So until somebody moves a motion, there's no, my guess is you want to move a motion?
I want to move motion that 5 is reinstated. However, that it would be contrary and negative to the previous motion. I'm not sure how you'd treat that.
That's up to you to decide.
I'm seeking that 5, recommendation 5B, be reinstated as an option for discussion and debate.
It's not reinstated until somebody actually moves it. It doesn't exist. You're moving it.
I'm moving it, yeah.
Yeah. So there's an A or B.
It's the B that I'm seeking.
You're seeking B, requesting further information, looking for a seconder to it.
Second.
Second to Councillor Warren. And Councillor Buckendale, if you wish to speak against and say this is not required, that's your option.
No, I'd stick with my original motion.
Your motion was a motion not to have a motion in effect.
Second.
Yeah. But somebody else has put the motion. If you wish to speak against it, that's your right.
Right.
You wish to speak to it, councillor.
Yes, I do, and I can absolutely see where councillor Buckendale is coming from in his suggestion that it's not required. However, I believe it is required simply in the fact that there's just not enough detail in the actual condition of the courts right here and right now as we speak to be able to put any surface overlay on them. Now, Flexi Pave may well be perfect. This other acrylic surface overlay, both of which are approved by the New Zealand Netball Association, as we've seen in the previous reports. Either of those may be appropriate, but nowhere in any of the reports that I've seen does it actually address what the condition of the courts are actually like right now, apart from speculation of their overall condition. And until we really understand whether or not the courts are either A, happy to accept Flexi Pave, let's go down that line. If they aren't suitable to do that, then we need to go down this other way. We are going to get to where we need to get to, but we've just got to tick a couple of little steps off further first. And by including this option, it enables us to take another little bit of a step back and go, right, what is the best step forward? And let's just have a quick assessment of what the condition of the courts are like. So seeking that we retain.
I'll speak to the motion. I support it, but I would warn in terms of being able to deliver this in a timely manner, that if you go down this path, I would recommend that you set up some sort of delegated authority to make a decision. Because I don't want netball to be in the position of saying, well, Flexi Pave have changed their status and lose a window if that is the best solution. So I'd like the council to be able to delegate approval and to this chief executive, myself, and some other person in terms of timing process around this. I just don't want to see a huge vacuum where nothing happens. So I'm prepared to second on that basis. It's not to second, to speak in favour on that basis. Any other speakers? Is this something I should be aware of? There's between Pooing and Staff. I'm sorry. Any other speakers? Otherwise, I'll put it back. Write a reply or put it. Do you wish to write a reply?
Yeah, very quickly. I think the previous motion that it is a community-led council project together might help alleviate the fears that you're talking about. And subsequent, we do have this third recommendation, recommendation 6 coming to the table, which I also think will alleviate your concerns about there being a vacuum in the delay of the process. Because those two put together, overlaid with the one that we're speaking to right now, will enable this process to move forward at some speed in conjunction with everybody getting on board. So I share your concern, but I think we've got it covered.
Put it to the vote. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Recommendation 6, that council agrees to allocate a budget of up to 50,000 as the final funder for the resurfacing and to be funded from either the general purpose reserves, the general purpose reserves, capital works, etc., or loan funded budget over the next 5 years.
So move.
Are you suggesting as to where it is funded from and move it?
No, I'm happy with a executive decision on that. I've heard the pros and cons earlier on today. Makes sense. The $50,000 is available.
So in principle, you're saying 50,000. Do you wish to provide any comment around from where? There's a preference.
It comes to whether you want to, I prefer to just use the reserve because we've got it. And I would recommend, just because I know we're using quite a bit of it over the next while, and it's also tagged to the grandstand at this stage, that we top it up, top that 50k up next year as part of our rates.
So
And can we just
I would second on the thought that comes out of the general purpose reserves, full stop. With your,
I'm happy with that.
and it's your motion, so I'd like you to speak to it first. I'll speak to you second as to why I've done it that way.
Sure. I'm happy to move that and accept the recommendation of our finance people.
Is it excluding GST? I'm assuming it is. Could we just note that, please?
Yeah.
Just saves any debate later.
If you did it as a loan fund, that implies that it'll be loan funded against netball. Or it could be implied that.
Oh, so, yeah.
But I think the general purpose reserves is where it should come out of, full stop anyway.
So you don't want it topped up next year as a general rate?
I think that becomes an annual plan
Okay,
consideration.
cool. Excellent.
You wish to speak to it further? Any other speakers? I'll put it to the vote. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Thank you very much. And in terms of the clarification that you don't think is quite necessary, there is that working group. But I want to make sure that things can happen. That's why I raised it. It's now 2:30. We'll carry on to 3. And at the end of at 3 o'clock, we'll take a break. So such a move on to 10.3. Committee instruction. Motion, not yet. Right. 10.3, committee structure and membership, 25-28. Thank you, lady. Were you happy?
Speechless.
10.3, committee structure and membership for 25-28 triennium. Would somebody like to move the receipt of the report? Councillor Sharlin moving. Councillor Wong seconding. Those in favour? Carried. Put the vote carried. Thank you. Recommendation 2. Now this is where, guys, we need to fill in a whole lot of names. So looking for people that are interested in being on the assets infrastructure committee. Going around the room, Councillor Dalgety, yes. Councillor O'Faith, yes. Councillor Hainsworth, yes. Chair, obviously named already. Councillor Buckendale, yes. Councillor Sharlin, yes. Councillor Wong,
Yes.
yes. Councillor Field, yes. I'm there. We don't know the opinions of councillors not here. They can be added later. So all councils, we're getting this.
Yes, she's got.
Please slow us down if
Yeah, could I suggest your worship for the elected members that aren't here today, after this meeting, we seek their opinions on whether or not they want to be on said committee. And we can update that at a later time.
okay. Yep. Recommendation 3.
Did you want to have a mover and seconder?
We'll do them all as blocks. Recommendation 3, these are the members of finance performance going around the room. You're there as chair. No. Finance. No. Yes. Wilson. No. Sharlin, yes. Just raise your hands if yes.
Yes.
Yes. And Wong is yes. Field? No. Have you got all that? Thank you. Recommendation 4, Community Grants Committee. This is the subcommittee of finance performance, so you'd need to be already on finance performance. Looking for those councillors. Was there a restriction of number on this? No. So we have Dalgety, Sharlin, Wong, myself. Thank you. Recommendation 5, the following elected members are members of the Policy and Planning Committee. No. Policy and Planning, do you wish to be on Policy and Planning, Councillor? No. Yeah. Yes, for Hainsworth, yes. Councillor Hainsworth, yes. For Councillor Wilson, Councillor Bucknell, yes. Councillor Wong, yes. Councillor Field, yes. Recommendation 6. This is, what I'll do is, would somebody like to move and second those recommendations 1 through to 5? So Councillor Wilson moving, Councillor Dalgety seconding. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. So I've done those as a block. Recommendation 6. We start to get down to individual recommendations. We need a councillor to be appointed as the alternate liaison to Youth Council. So Councillor Rokawa is named as chair. Councillor Field, you wishing, anybody else wishing? If there are more than one people wishing, we just have a vote. No? Councillor Field in that space, would somebody like to so move? Thank you. Dalgety, Wong, those in favour? Those against? Carried. Thank you. 7. For the 25-28, His Worship the Mayor, councillors, and we need 2 councillors. This is the Maori Land Rates Remission Committee. Noting that they will sit. So Councillor Wong, you're interested in that space? Who else is interested in that space? I am there, is it right? We're looking for one other councillor. Councillor Dalgety?
Would it be better to have one of our Murray Ward councillors there, or?
Yes, probably the answer
That's what I
is
thought,
yes.
so I'm happy to not be
I'm
involved.
sorry, did Councillor Buckner, did you have interest as well?
There's also 3 members from Tururuahika.
Yeah, I think that would cover it.
Yeah.
So Councillor Buckner, Councillor Wong. Do I need to be part of that conversation? Would somebody like to move and second? Councillors Buckendale and Wong? Thank you. Councillor Field, Councillor Sharland, first and second. Recommendation 8.
Did you put on that one?
Yeah, put it to vote. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Yes, I did. Recommendation 8. This is looking for a councillor to be appointed to the Santoff Domain Management, and we need an alternate. It would be appropriate that somebody from the Southern Ward. Councillor Fee, are you wishing to be alternate or principal? Principal. Principal. Looking. Are you wishing to be alternate or principal? Alternate. Alternate. Yeah. That's tidy. Would somebody like to move that Councillor Fee and Councillor Charlene be there? Thank you. Councillor Buckendale, Councillor Wong. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Recommendation 9. McIntyre Reserve Committee, and looking for an alternate there. This needs to be somebody from probably Hunterville North.
Well, in previous training, I was involved and told I couldn't be on it because it had to be a Northern Ward member, so whether those, I wasn't sure with the terms of reference given, whether those rules had changed, but that was been a previous ruling.
Right, do we have an opinion here as either?
I believe Councillor Dalgety would be more than up to the task.
Would you be happy to be there if approved?
Yeah.
I'll be alternate.
And you'd be and you'd be alternate?
Sort of,
Let's put that in as such at the moment, but somebody, if there's a problem, then we'll have to revisit. Would somebody like to move it? Thank you, Councillor Hainsworth, Councillor Charlene, those in favour? Those against? Carried. Now, the Bulls Community Committee, we need 2 names there, noting that it is not currently formed.
You two again.
So, Councillor Fee, which would you like to be either?
Like neither of them, but I'll take on the.
Principal?
Yeah.
And Councillor Charlene?
Yeah, as an alternative.
Yep. I'll move, looking for a second. Councillor Dalgety seconding.
I've got So will that, is it just for half the training each and then they swap over?
That could be arranged.
It's been typically what's happened in the past.
So yes, literally with these positions, what we should have written in is a flip flopping of each does 18 months. But that we can deal with that later, right? Just with the Martin Community Committee and Bill's Community Committee, there needs to be a process and it needs to happen reasonably quickly where we call for interest on those committees and hopefully they require a vote. Right. 11,
We just need that on that one.
you know what we did. Those in favour? Yep. Those in,
Just confirming, because councillor Dalgety suggested she didn't want to be her seconder.
And I'm going to be a second down, but my comment, I was actually just making a comment about
Yeah.
the joint
okay.
responsibilities.
Again, we need 2 names for the Martin Community Committee. Councillor Wilson, what do you want to do?
I'll take the principal.
And the alternate, councillor Hainsworth. Also move, looking for a seconder. Councillor Charlin seconding, those in favour. Thank you, carried. Hunterville Community and mover and wishing to be principal,
Yes.
looking for alternate for Hunterville. They're nice at Hunterville. Looking for a second, otherwise I'll go in there officially. No? All right, I'll be,
I'll go with you.
are you wanting to be an alternate?
I'll go as an alternative, yeah.
Yeah, all right.
If councillor Dalgety's
Looking for
happy.
somebody to move. Councillor Charlin, you happy to move?
Yes.
Councillor Wong seconding, those in favour? Those against, carried. Again, Turakina Community Committee. Looking for a principal, councillor Charlin, principal.
Yeah.
Alternate, councillor Fee seconding, as alternative rather, looking for a mover and seconder. Councillor Buckendale moving, councillor Hainsworth seconding, those in,
Sorry.
sorry,
A second person interested in the alternate position.
Yeah, but
what's that?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand. No, look, no, I'll go back.
Yeah.
It's important we get this right.
Yeah.
So councillor Shannon is interested in being the principal. Is that correct? Do you wish to, does anybody wish to be the principal? Other than
councillor Charlton was going to be principal and I was going to be,
yeah,
yeah, but
but I've got somebody else interested.
I'll put out as.
No, so,
All right,
so
yeah.
we've got councillor Shannon as principal.
Yeah,
I've now got 2 people interested in being alternate.
well, I'll pull out.
So pull out.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
in that case, it's councillor Field as the alternate. And guys, just remember, this is a process, and if you want to put your hand up for them, then somebody else, by all means, put your hand up, we'll have a vote. Would somebody like to move in second? Councillor Wilson moving, councillor Dalgety seconding. I think that's right, yes it is. 14.
And divine.
Yeah, we did. Those in favour? Yeah, we did. What's that? Recommendation 14, that the terms of reference of policy planning committee be adopted. So move councillor Wong, looking with seconder. They're in the order papers. Councillor Bucknell seconded, those in favour. Those against, carried, thank you very much. that the term reference 15, that the terms of reference for the Chief Executive Employment and Performance Committee be adopted. I'll so move. Looking for a second. Councillor Wilson seconding. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. And that the terms of reference for the South Santoff Domain and McIntyre Reserve committees be adopted. Looking for a mover and seconder. It's the terms of reference I need. Councillor Sharlin moving. Councillor O'Fee seconding. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Am I moving too quickly, guys? Recommendation. We had a vote there. By the way, did you know that? Recommendation 17. The terms of reference for the community committees as listed be adopted. Looking for a move. Councillor Buckendale moving. Thank you, Councillor Sharlin seconding. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. One of the things I have signalled is I want discussions within each one of these committees, and I'm not just talking about community committees, but I'm talking about policy and planning and those sorts of things. I am interested in what delegations and decision-making powers would be appropriate for each of those committees to try and cut down a whole heap of duplication and very, very minor matters coming back by way of recommendations to full council, etc. And I've signalled that earlier in the training. Recommendation 18, that council appoints Phil Hurry to replace Chris Renshaw on the Four Regions Trust. This could be up for discussion and around whether there are other people instead of Phil to take this role. You're happy to move. Looking for a seconder. We now have the name Councillor Hainsworth seconding. And do you wish to speak to it?
Just to say that should that not be acceptable to the Four Regions Trust, then it could be revisited by council at a later stage. But at this stage, it is a recommendation that we put forward.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Put it to the vote. Those in favour? Those against? Thank you. Do we want to break now? 10.4, because we're probably over halfway through this paper. No, push on. This is the report for remuneration for councillors 25-28 triennium be received. This is about remuneration, what you will be paid. Looking for a receipt of the report. Only at this stage, Councillor Sharlin moving, Councillor O'Fee seconding, just receipt only. Put it to the vote. Those in favour, those against, motion is carried. Now, this is where, and I'll speak to this, but I'll vote by way of recommendation, looking for a seconder for discussion, then I'll give my rationale. I'll move recommendation 2 that council recommends the following proposal to the remuneration authority for the remuneration of councillors 25-28 triennium. The position of deputy mayor also holds the chair of Assets Infrastructure Committee to be on the salary of 49,585, the chair of Finance Performance and the chair of Policy and Planning Committees to be on 42,589, and the base rate to be 34,585. Looking for a seconder to that. Councillor Buckendale second, because I want this to be a discussion, but better speaking to a motion. This is a slight variation from what there has been in the past. So what has happened is, first of all, the mayor's salary is governed by a separate process that I'm sorry you don't have an ability to slash, burn, or get rid of. I don't even think you've got the ability to increase it either. Think about that. The deputy mayor's role is a role that steps in absolutely the moment that I am unavailable, and that will be quite a significant ask in this triennium. Not because I plan on being away a huge amount, though do have a holiday planned, but literally the amount of work that is coming at us means that I'm going to have to rely far more on the deputy mayor role. He also has the chair of a standing committee. The chair's role will be quite significant in finance and in policy and planning. And previously, the deputy chairs of those committees had a slight increase over the base rate. Reason why I've said no, I'd suggest, that the base rate just has increased for several reasons. First of all, historically, the deputies haven't had a huge role as deputies standing in his chair. It has happened, don't get me wrong. But if I look at the need for people right around the table to take on portfolio holders and be on a number of other council functions, and looking at the other committees that have yet to be put in place, such as local water done well, and strategy thinking, that there's no longer such a big gap between the deputies and the responsibilities for everybody else's councillors. So what I'm suggesting is a slight flattening out there where it increases the base rate. But I also believe that the base rate is just too low. If people are attending, especially from the northern regions, then it's a little bit unfair to state this, but essentially for a half a day council meeting, they lose a day. And yes, there is compensation for travel, but that is literally a cost of a person supplying a vehicle. And I thought it's better that I give my opinion up front to start the conversation, because I'm the only person that doesn't have a conflict within this space. So I'll open it up for questions first. Councillor Wong.
The figure quoted 411,443, is that determined by the remuneration authority? So obviously the ratepayers will question our pay, and so okay, thank you.
It's the pool that we have to work with effectively. Councillor Wilson.
Speaking in favour, and would just like to say that your logic and thinking around this matter is sound and is solid, given the expectations over the next triennium of what this council is going to have to do. So it's sound and solid. Yep, happy to support.
Councillor Wong.
Question again. I take on board your comments about the deputy chairs quite often being not as active as perhaps some others, but with the no deputies named for these committees, a lot of these committees, what will the alternative be when the chair is away? Do they have to put in some other process, or?
There will still be deputies named, but the point is that I don't see any longer this huge significant gap in workload between them and portfolio holders, etc.
Have we named all the deputies? Sorry.
Yeah, in some instances, yes, I have named. But you know, we need further. I've just put a stake in the sand here. If I've got it wrong, or you set aside your principles here, and if you think that you're being unfairly treated or we wanted to see a different adjustment, have the discussion. Right. Have a mover and a seconder, essentially. I'll put it to the vote. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Thank you for that. It is always a sensitive discussion. 10.5 elected members allowances and recovery of expenses policy 1. Somebody remove receipt of the report. Councillor Dalgety moving, Councillor Wilson seconding. Those in favour? No. Those against? Carried. Thank you to Councillor Dalgety. Recommendation 2. That the elected members' allowances and recovery expensive policy be amended and adopted.
Okay.
You wish to speak to this?
Provide a short comment. I'm happy to answer any questions and take the report as read, but just a note on page 83 under additional expenses and allowances for the mayor under the credit card. We just need to make a change in terms of who's authorising that expenditure to make sure it aligns with our credit card policy that has already been signed off by the Risk and Assurance Committee. So that change would be from the Group Manager Strategy, Community and Democracy to the Deputy CE and Group Manager Corporate Services, just to ensure that alignment between those two policy documents.
Effectively, guys, there's a process here. So the credit card that the chief executive holds, I sign off. And right down the line, those people holding a credit card need to be signed off by somebody. I don't see any significant change, but that's the listed change within it. Any questions around this? You wish to make comment?
No.
Councillor Wilson.
Happy to move recommendation 2 as worded.
Looking for a seconder. Councillor Sharman seconding. You wish to speak to it?
Just largely that this is a predetermined by the Remuneration Authority, and it's fairly broad. So it is what it is.
And the order and internal check processes, etc. What is the vote? Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Thank you. I think now would probably be a good time at 2 minutes to 3 to take a little nap or whatever's required. If you move into 11.1, we'll go offline there. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you. Welcome back, everyone. By my understanding, we now move to item 11, and if we could roll down my screen, please. Oh, sorry, no, you're right. We're moving back to tidy up the recommendations with regard to the grandstand, recommendation 5. Can you explain to me, councillor staff, as to where we're at?
Sure, so we did work on some wording which covered the intention that council talked about before. So if you look on the third line down, we've added the word subject to confirmation of final approval of the TGRC agreement, which includes roles, responsibilities and procurement and payment processes.
So councillor Wilson, you moved this, councillor Wong seconded it. Are you happy with that?
Yes, I'm comfortable with that wording. Yep.
Councillor Wong, are you happy?
Happy.
Okay, so on that basis, we could take the left to line the table off there and address it now. Councillor Wilson, Councillor Dale, any questions?
There was I was voting.
Sorry?
I was just about to vote because I thought that's what you were
We
doing.
haven't quite got that far. Councillor Wilson, do you wish to speak to it first?
I'm happy it's been addressed and thank you to staff for rewording that amendment. Thank you.
Since Councillor Dick has suggested we move straight to a vote, we will. Those in favour? Aye. Those against? Carried. Thank you, Councillor Dalgety. Yes.
Now I have a question. Do we need to address the final funding question, or will that be in that agreement?
I thought I would do it now. If you wish to just note that you move that council be regarded as the final funder, as a recommendation.
Thank
I'm
you.
happy to accept that as a recommendation.
Yeah.
Looking for a second to the motion that's going to be on the table. Councillor O'Fee, are you wishing to second? Thank you. Nobody further online, check that. Do you wish to speak to it?
No, I don't think.
Put to vote, those in favour?
Oh, sorry. Can I
Sorry.
speak to that or no? Can I speak to that?
Yes, sir.
When you're saying the final funder, at what point of finance is that? Is what's in there at the moment or?
So
At
literally.
the moment, there's 600 and.
Yeah, so literally what we're saying is, what's your motion? Maybe you'd like to explain your thinking rather than me giving your thinking, councillor.
Well, the worst outcome is that you get to 90% finished, you run out of money, and they come back to council and ask for more money. So we're saying they need to use all their applications for funding money first.
Yeah, that we've got to make a decision on the 22,000. If that's paid, that would leave a,
That's a.
sorry. If it's the funds that are left at the moment.
Yeah.
Or there's any other money that's going to come out.
Separate those issues out as two separate issues.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Put it to the vote. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Thank you. This is the portfolio holders. It's started that process, looking for a councillor to be allocated as the grandstand project as one of the portfolios for the Assets Infrastructural Committee. Now, this doesn't mean that the deputy mayor in charge of assets is not part of the process at all. And the deputy mayor may put up his hand and say, I'd like to be the portfolio holder, but equally be encouraging councillors to say, so I'm looking for somebody, presumably from the northern area, that is interested in making sure that.
Can I comment?
Yes.
So I believe there were negotiations between Jill Duncan, who is the leader of this, and councillor Pikitiora. But as she's not here, I cannot.
Okay, well, how about we leave that sitting on the
Could
table?
you leave that, please? Yes.
Right, leave that one sitting on the table. However, just make the point, it's not up to the organisation to name the people, it's up to us. But I accept the thinking. We've done all that really, really well. Reports for information 11.1. Somebody like to move the receipt of the reports. The Councillor Wilson moving, Councillor Charlotte seconding, those in favour, those against, carried. Looking at 11.2, the financial snapshot.
Are you going through the projects?
Yeah, but I thought the finance snapshot came first. Oh, no, it didn't, sorry. I'm ahead of my,
Yeah.
I'll rewind. Pass to the chief executive who's going to pass.
I'll
these
pass to Darren, who's sitting in the hot seat
Oh,
today.
sorry.
But just noting there may be questions that Darren may not be able to answer, and if there are, then we will come back to you with responses on those. Thank you, Darren.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks. Leading up to me sitting here today, I've been pretty quick, so I'm really not all over these Three Waters projects, so apologies for that. Especially for the ones where the project manager are in the room, but Ishwa is going to take over from item 6. But if we sort of go through three to six, just through the headings, and if you've got any questions, just note them and I'll get on to Anna and the project managers.
So any items questions regarding to number 3, Bulls Martin wastewater? Councillor Charlotte.
Under 3.11, we've heard several times about this ongoing thing with ANZCO. Has there been any further developments?
That's one that we'll take away and come back to you on that one.
We'll get an answer for you there.
Sure.
There was a question, I think might have been dealt with. Somebody raised a question by way of email. What was that?
Like water down water space.
Yeah, all right, Peter.
We should just in fairness, in appreciating that Mr. Bernardi is unable to be with us today. I just wonder if the items relating to the water projects perhaps be carried through to our assets and infrastructure meeting, which is 2 weeks away. Perhaps that would be a suitable space, unless you particularly want to step through them.
I think it might be useful to flag items of interest at this stage. So moving to the Ratana wastewater discharges, just so they do the correct work. And I'd hate to remove your moment in the sun. Yeah, so Ratana wastewater discharges. Can bear.
Still on hold. I suppose one thing to note is that we have had the updated or the finalised wastewater standards come out last Friday. So now we actually know they've been approved. We can go through each of these projects and see what that actually means for them, especially the ones that have been on hold because we've been waiting for that legislation to come through.
Thank you.
When can we expect that? Then I think will that come to the assets meeting?
Yes,
or-
it will. And I think in particular, yesterday when we had our tour about the Bulls to Martin, Arno did say that one of the, or a couple of the options actually had considered if there was a change to the wastewater standards. So now the staff can actually bring those options back to you to consider more.
Thank you.
Moving on, 5, Ty Happy, they've got wastewater too apparently. Any more questions there? No. Martin Water Projects, by the way, thank you staff for the tours, they've been useful. 6.
Water, certainly just looking previous to my earlier conversation today about seeing if we could get some sort of indication of timelines. Lachlan, I know it's difficult, and we don't want to put a timeline on it because we tend to trip ourselves up, but I think some indication of timelines would be good. And I would also comment, particularly for the other councillors that may have not been involved, but at a recent meeting I had on this matter, it was very pleasing to hear that the testing that we are doing, the words were, it is being stress tested. And that means that we are putting the test plant through a range of scenarios to make sure it performs for scenarios that we haven't even thought it might need to perform. So stress testing was a great terminology, I thought, and it led me a degree of comfort that whilst the project isn't moving along as quickly as we would like it to be, there are reasons for that. So we've got to get this one right, and stress testing the plant, I think, is an appropriate move. So it gave me some heart that was a process that was in place.
Martin Offices Library Project, this one.
We are quite close to finalizing the resource consent application for the EOC. We already had one round of discussion with the external agency and it looks very promising. I think the only thing that we're working on at the moment is we're trying to get a acoustic report and a landscape design ready. As long as these are in, we should be able to submit the resource consent. And we are also parallelly working to get EV approval on it. We're talking to Len on that one if there's any design comments.
Questions? Paul.
Through the chair, how are we getting on with the contaminated soil that needs to be
So the
associated with?
So the contamination itself on the Martin offices side. So the EOC, the site that EOC sits on is relatively free.
Oh, yeah.
There's no contamination on that side. As for the Martin offices, we've kind of, we wanted to do additional surveys, which we're still waiting for a contractor to come by and do additional holes to evaluate the extent of contamination. In the meantime, we've had to take a direction and move. So what we have decided is basically the whole contamination sits within the car park, right outside the assets building. So the intention is to dig out the car park at the back, which is a cleaner soil, which will be disposed of, and the contaminated soil will be refilled back in the car park area. So one is the contamination, and the other is the fill itself is not qualified to take the load of the building, but whereas that qualifies to take the car park load. So that's the whole idea of instead of taking this load outside, where the disposal fee is huge. So we're trying to manage it within the site. So that decision is kind of finalized and we're working towards that. In terms of the building itself, we've identified the bulk and location of where the building is going to go, and that pretty much confirms with what the urban design review suggested. So that's all set in place. All that we're working on now is the concept design. So once we have a floor plans ready, and we'll bring it back.
Thank you. Moving along. Next one.
Grandstand, I believe, is a separate discussion.
Yep. 9.
Taihape, we've kind of agreed on the concept design, and they've moved into the preliminary design stage now. So now we've engaged the QS to do an estimate at the concept stage level. So and they've pretty much come back and said it's still within that 14 million bracket, because at this stage we don't have any design details as such. So when we go into the next stage, we'll probably have more details and then have better pricing.
Just one question there. Why was there such a huge increase in the price between having a 900 high stage and 1200 high? It's something like 40,000 K.
Sorry?
14, he's
It's
saying.
$40,000 a K.
Yes, those are structural changes that needed to be allowed for the height.
So there was a huge debate around and consultation around the difference in height requirements.
Yeah.
In terms to how would be seen from the floor. And so the expert advice that we were given, or council was given, was to move to the additional height.
Yeah, it would just seem, just on doing how they managed to come up with a value of $40,000. It seemed to be a huge amount of money.
I think at this stage, it's still a very preliminary design. We've not seen the structural designs yet, so this is only a placement. We just put a lump sum figure that this shouldn't go beyond that. We'll have a QS on board once the designs are completed. It'll go through a QS to evaluate all of that.
Next one.
Martin Swim Center, we finished the detailed design. We've put in a building consent application, and we're also working on going to the market for a tender. So the tender documents are pretty much ready. We're looking at the draft tomorrow, and we should be able to submit by tomorrow or latest by Monday. We should go to the market.
Just a warning here, council, this is a capital development program. And whereas there's been a very significant offer to meet some of the funding, there will be some council funding go into this. I've always said you've got to be careful about understanding things without understanding the overall picture as to where you're at. It would not be a good idea to go out for tender if you don't intend to progress this. And we've also put applications in for funding with lotteries. Was it lotteries for this one?
In January, it will be going. We're just waiting for the building consent.
Okay. So we wait for the building consents.
So that's one of the criteria for lotteries for us to apply for that fund.
Yeah, so when are you thinking of putting it out for tender?
Next week.
Yeah,
Seven.
Tomorrow or Monday.
Tomorrow or
Yeah.
Monday, which is ahead of time,
Ahead
which
of
is a
time,
good
yes.
result.
So what I'm indicating here is if you think this project should not go ahead at all, and that your gut feeling would be advisable to tell us now.
Well, I'm all in favour of it for a start. We're not voting it. No, but you want an indication?
Yeah, that's fine. I'm just seeking who's running the consent process. Is it internal or external? Who's the consents currently sitting with? When we say we're waiting for consents.
It's gone to NPL.
External. So it's an external organisation outside this council.
Correct.
Excellent, thank you. That's what I was seeking to get clarification.
Don't get me wrong, your decision point is literally the tenders come back and you can say yes or no.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But I'm just warning you around how this is progressing. Oh,
Through the chair, I've circulated a couple of pictures. I visited both the Aquatic Centre in Coastlands in Paraparaumu and the one in Rotorua. And I'm not against this project at all, but I walked in, it was a wet, rainy day in Paraparaumu, and I walked in and the complex was very warm. And the pool supervisor, I told her who I was and what I was concerned about, and she came to me and she said, look, she said, in the summer it can get up to 40 degrees. This is what she told me. And she said, so they've had lifeguards actually collapse because of the heat. She said, I said, well, why don't they stand under the shade? And she said, they can't, they have to stand by the pool. So she said, we make them alternate their positions and they have to hydrate all the time. And that was on a very miserable day in Paraparaumu. Then I was actually in Rotorua, so I went around like Mary Andy has, and I saw their one. Theirs is a much bigger complex and it's much more open. But again, the lady there said to me, she said the heat is extreme when it's hot. They have 2 air conditioning units that can't get rid of the air. They have to open all the doors as well. She said the lifeguards have to wear hats and sunglasses at all times because of the glare. And she said the other concern is when it rains, they've got some sort of baffle system, but she said you can't hear yourself talk when it rains. So I'm just concerned that do we want to have the same, are we going to run into the same problem with the pool, that if we spend a whole lot of money on it and people come back and say, well, it's too hot and it's not suitable. I just thought I'd highlight, and I'm actually going back to Rotorua in a couple of weeks, so I'd like to go into the Rotorua one on a hot day and see what it's like. So
we've got to be careful about, multiple visits, etc., etc. So I spent some time in the Rotorua pool. I asked a number of people, and the bottom line, as I said, was knowing what you know now, do the negatives outweigh the positives? No, the other way around.
Yeah.
They said the power saving is phenomenal. The ability to operate, they said it is a warm, welcoming environment. Yes, they said in the height of summer, it can get pretty hot. And they said they have the advantage of being able to open up a fairly sizable airflow at the door. And they have a very good ventilation system. But they were not, I was there on a hot day. And I made sure that I was there, not in the early morning. I deliberately waited until I was going to be there early afternoon.
Yeah.
And no, they weren't wearing hats, they weren't wearing visors. And it was warm but comfortable. You know, it wasn't anywhere near to an extreme. But they also don't have a reflective area over any of the pool in terms of the surface they put on.
Your worship, just thank you, councillor Sharlin, for the table documents that you circulated, and I would say valid concern, but those were concerns raised at a number of our workshops towards the end, and the mitigation that they'd put in was an extra layer of a sun shading, which would take it right to the pool edge. In our particular case, it was going to go to the pool edge. That was one of the things after it was raised. Also, the system we're using is now about 10 years on from design of when some of these ones were too, and that was also raised at the workshop we had around the alternative options. And we're swinging off a concrete block wall to alleviate some of that light that's going through, increasing that heat. So it's a valid point that you raise, but they were raised at council workshops with our designers before we've gone out to tender on that. So
that's good.
it's good that you raise it, because we do need to be aware of it, but they were concerns that have been raised.
Good. Sounds fine.
And your photographs clearly, it is a beautiful looking environment.
Oh, yeah, the road,
It looks absolutely stunning. And I also spoke to 2 or 3 people that, you know, I said, do you use the pool regularly? And they said, yeah, love it, absolutely love it. It's again, this the reconditioned. This is not a brand new pool and build. This is a new roof and etc. And it's 25-metre pool with other bits and pieces. But huge.
It's a massive complex. It's huge.
So just outline the process in terms of you're going to go out for tender, which is great. We will then have a decision point around when that comes back up. Yep, good.
What's that? Sorry.
Yeah.
What is our estimated cost for renovation?
Have the new councillors been sent the documents around question to start?
No, we'll add that to the
Yeah.
information that we requested from this morning.
Effectively, to put the new roof on it, and correct me if I'm wrong, Paul, Dave, others, to fix the immediate things like that, the roof essentially, about 3.2.
Yeah, I think it was about 4 million all up with the
Yeah.
HVAC and.
On this document, it says 4.5, I think.
Yeah.
Some of you
Yeah, there are different.
Bait and we might get a bit more.
Yeah, there are different stages, but there's also, you know, some of them things are also very long-term, the electrical rebuilds and things like that, switchboards that should have been done. Sure.
Is there anything done with like, is it too shallow to dive in or something, is there anything going
Yeah.
around that, or is it?
There's a very comprehensive report on the entire pool. What we'll do is we'll make sure that it's sent out to you. In terms of, you know, used for a competitive 50-metre pool and under current regulations or updated regulations, we'll say that it's too shallow. And people then immediately tend to think, for those online, that the pool has to be dug out and deepened by, no, you just put a nib wall build around the pool, which increases the depth, and the depth requirement addition is something like it's not right.
50 mil or something. It's 150 mils above what it is now. To enable diving blocks to be put in place for it to be used for diving commercial purposes.
It'll be 1.5.
Somebody did suggest to me, by the way, that you only needed to do it at the end that they dived into, which I thought was quite bizarre. So you're at this level. Yeah. Sorry, I'm being flippant, but that was a suggestion made to me.
Your worship, with all the different costs we're looking at with the pool, does that include the equipment that's sometimes used with the pool, like the steps going in and out, the accessibility steps sometimes and ramp that's used, and the handrails that go in and out for people getting in? Is that part of these costs or are they separate?
I think most of that would be separate,
Okay.
but the report is incredibly comprehensive. It covers the changing rooms, it covers all sorts of other things. Yeah.
Just to support that, I think it's the very, very detailed report that we had done, which was some 200 odd pages, would need to be circulated to the other councils to understand the original decision was that we were going to take a holistic view of it, and we're staging our approach as we go along. We're only dealing with stage one now. Many of these other things will come into it, but the report should be circulated to you if it hasn't been.
Right. Anything further?
These are all on Bigton Ken, aren't they?
Yeah.
Already, so.
Yeah. We'll just make sure that you've got those access to all of those reports. Somebody borrowed my hard copy report too, and I hadn't returned it. I'd love to know.
I think you accused me, Andy, but
I didn't accuse you, I asked the question.
Vaguely ringing a bell.
My fault, I can't remember who borrowed it, but somebody borrowed it. I'm sure that council staff will produce me with another one. So good luck.
Little series.
So the tender itself, you can go ahead.
Yes.
With the tender for yes. Yes.
Moving on to sorry.
Just around the projects and Arno, commitment elsewhere. So, is there any risk around this?
I'm managing it, yes. So we have a number of people who have stepped into different areas. So Gwilym on Open will be in the office 3 days a week looking after the projects. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays, he'll be sitting where Arno was, and his specialty and his qualifications are in the project management space. So he'll be looking at that. And Darren will be looking after some day-to-day stuff, but we will just be seeing how it all goes and managing exactly what you're asking. Thank you.
That's good. Yeah, good question.
So Anna will still be here for the Tuesday meeting,
Thursday,
so
Friday.
this time you have a family commitment.
Oh,
So, yeah.
thank you.
And with the number of these reports, as I said, I am wanting to be able to be in the position shortly to be able to say who are portfolio holders. So each, whether it's, the Grandstand or Martin Paul and the many, many other things we're involved with. I want somebody on council that absolutely says they can take some ownership in knowing what's going on. Now, moving on to 11.2, financial snapshot.
Cool. So good afternoon, everyone, and apologies from Warren. He's busy nailing our annual plan budget right at the moment, and also thank you to Marita who put a lot of this report together. I'll take the paper as read. I'm just going to go through, there's three things I was going to do a brief highlight on. Page 99 was my first, just to explain the favourable variance there, which is what we call corporate services and support. And corporate services is all the office functionality or the back office functionality plus the support to specific business activities. So it's kind of where we put costs, and we only charge out the cost based on what we spend. So if we're not spending all of our budget, we're not charging our overheads. So you'll see throughout, because we're underspent, you'll see variations across different activities around overheads. And that's just the way it works. We don't charge more than we do. So at the moment, you'll see that we're under budget around timing differences for our license fees, particularly around information services. Contractor costs, which involve things like our QV, our Bancorp, and our internal audits. So costs like that are lumpy. They're not always perfectly as we would like them to be. Finance costs, we believe, will be under budget for the entire year. and I've already spoken on overheads. The other page I'd like to just quickly look at is page 102, around roading, and just to note that our revenue is down. We put in our claims, and you've seen, for those who've been here before, you'll see that we put our claims in based on the spend. Our revenue for is always higher than our missing revenue is always higher than our operational spend, because the revenue also funds our capital, and I'll speak on capital in a moment, which is page 105. So page 105 is our significant projects that we run throughout the year, capital projects, and we've got some key variances there. A lot is you've talked about today. You've talked today on the town hall, the grandstand and the Martin buildings. The budget is expected to be happening this year. It's budgeted to happen this year, but again, it is really up to the timing of decisions that are made. The same with the swimming pool. I've spoken briefly on the roading, so we are ramping up on roading now. The weather's playing ball, and you, just about everywhere you drive at the moment, there's road works happening somewhere. Which I know that's everyone else complains, but every time I see it, I'm quite excited because it means my budget's being spent. And you'll see the big water projects there as well. And you've talked about the Ratana upgrade today. So that's a quick overview. Really happy to take questions.
Certainly. Take questions, councillor Wilson.
Yeah, just thank you for mentioning the CapEx spend, because if you look at way back, and I think it's page 91, there's a widening gap between actuals and spend to date at the stage of the year. And I look at the big capital works projects that you've mentioned that we are trying to progress as fast as we can. We've already discussed today several of them, the Taihape and Martin builds and various different other things. It seems to me that we are dramatically going to be well behind even getting close to our end of year report, which I know is still 6 or 8 months away, but we're well off the mark. So what risk does that entail? Where do we run into? There's got to be a fish hook for all that somewhere along. I know we can say we're just going to carry forward or whatever we need to do, but thinking with audit and things and coming up, it's not a good picture that we're looking at, because sadly we're not spending enough money.
No, and it's not a good picture in that we'll get to the end of the year and we'll do an annual report and we'll say we've spent 67% or whatever it might be of our actual budget, not our carry forward budget, but our actual. We will do the similar process to what we did last year, getting closer to the completion of the annual plan 26-27. I'll be calling from the managers to say, what of this are we not going to be doing? We'll be putting that into the annual plan and revising this budget so that we can keep council laws a track of that, but also it removes the need to carry forward, which is what we did this year. It makes it easier for us and the finance team to be able to manage accurately our balance sheets, our depreciation projections, finance projections, etc. Because we don't rate fund or revenue fund all of our depreciation now, a bigger part of that risk is actually mitigated, because we will underspend in depreciation, which means we will reduce some of that gap, that unbalanced budget that we talk about, and I'll be talking about on the 3rd of December at the workshop. Those kind of things get a little bit mitigated. The other risk is that the longer you delay things, costs change, and we know that too.
Yeah, we do know that. Subsequent, if I may, is there, and I'm sure, Leanne, you would have been given some thought to this, but is there a better process in the way we actually set our budgets and our timelines to break it down to try and avoid this? Is quite a huge gap, and even if you're suggesting 60 or 63% by the year end, the way it's tracking, that might not even be the case. I'm just wondering if there's a better way we can do it, and you might not have the answer now, but
I don't. The hardest thing is we have to have the budgets in the annual plans and long-term plans. We can't do the work. And that's the hardest thing. And when we set these budgets, and we set these budgets a long way in advance, particularly when you're thinking LTP, and already we're talking about now 26, 27, you have to do it. And like all councils, we're extremely optimistic. This year, for the year we're in, not only did we reduce the carry forward by doing the capital budget for the year in, we rephased the existing, so we didn't just add on. If you go back to last year, we had about 66 million or something in our capital budget. This year we kept it, we tried to keep the figure down. I do believe there's going to be quite a lot of costs coming through the water side of things and the roading side of things, which will catch us up. The big ones are going to be, how do we, and I think we'll get a big chunk of the pool done depending on how the tender looks. So you'll see there is 2.7 in that budget for this year for the pool from our original annual plan thinking. Arno, when I spoke to him about some of his projects, he's expecting a lot to start to come through at a big chunk. So I think come February is when we'll start to really make some calls.
Yeah, you're likely to get Martin Pool budget. You're likely to get, provided council agrees to continue, a fair chunk of certainly the new build for the civil defence centre. Yeah, that will take it. That's got a budget sitting there of 2 million, etc. So there will be some expenditure, hopefully, through the summer.
And if you look at that page, you'll see we have tried to phase it as best as you can guess at that moment in time. So the Martin Building Design and Construction right now looks like it's on track because we were expecting to spend around 200k and we've spent 157.8. So, it's just.
Just an observation. Thank you for your explanation.
Yeah, and in theory that if you proceed with the Taihape build, that could well be happening at the same time.
Calico's about to start, I think.
It's so later, looks good.
Right. Would somebody like to move receipt of the financial report? Thank you, Chair of Finance. Deputy Councillor Shaw, seconded. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. 11.3, the statement of service provision, a 3-month report. And
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll largely take the report as read, but just explain for the benefit of our new councillors what this is. So effectively what council does when they set their long-term plan is council sets a series of performance measures and targets that they'd like to achieve across all of the activities that council delivers. Generally, it's focused on areas that are the most significant to council delivery. But I will note there are some mandatory measures that the DIA sets for us. Those are generally across the 3 waters and the roading space that we have to report on as well. So they've decided what our measures are and we report on them. But all the other council areas through the long-term plan process, council decides what they are and sets the targets, sets the measure. So what this report is every quarter we report on how we're tracking against those performance measures. So we do it at 3, 6, 9 and 12 months, and the 12-month measures get incorporated into the annual report. So what you've got in front of you today is the 3-month report on how we're going. It identifies targets that are achieved, targets that are on track to be achieved, targets that are not on track to be achieved, targets that are not achieved, and targets that are not measured as well. I'm happy to take any questions. I'm conscious that usually this report goes to the Finance Performance Committee, and once we have that structure all established next year, the 6th month will go to Finance Performance. Yes.
Just from me, the real concern I have is no water supply within the district has complied with protozoa compliance criteria in the first quarter of this year. And I know that some of it's about data, but it's still not compliant. And that's concerning to me.
And I think there is, I won't even try and explain it. We can give you a further explanation. I'll talk to Arno. But even if the machine stops monitoring for 30 seconds, we're non-compliant.
Yeah, it's that one little green line, it's one time green line. and then we're non-compliant full stop, no matter how good we've been.
However, government will say literally, this is non-compliance, 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 there'll be a name and shame process here. Or has already been. Would somebody like to receive the report, please? Thank you, councillor Field moving. Councillor Long seconding. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Unless there are any further questions there? No? All right. That should bring us to the end, other than I need somebody to move that we go into public excluded. That's for the reasons given. Councillor Dalgety, Councillor O'Fee. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. So thank you for those that have been online listening. Thank you for your perseverance. And sayonara.